Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Dude, I Love That. I'm Liv, and today we're continuing the Summer Throwback Enneagram series with one of my very good friends, Melody.
Hey, I'm so excited to be on the podcast today. Recently listened to your Cinderella story one, and it was so good because that's one of my favorite movies. And the 2000s vibes were just immaculate. So I'm so excited to be doing another 2000s show today.
Oh my gosh, immaculate. Come on,
I'm
that's such a
telling
good
you, I use
word.
a lot of words that you use in essays.
No, it's good. And I feel like, we all have the tendency to keep repeating words. Like once we start saying them, we just keep repeating them. So we need someone
Yeah.
like you with a nice, vast, beautiful vocabulary to come in and like knock us off once in a while and be like,
Oh,
hey,
thank
try
you.
using some different words for once.
Homeschool life.
Yeah, right. Yeah, fun fact, we're both homeschooled, or you're currently homeschooled. I was
Yeah.
homeschooled. But we're going to be typing the characters from Lizzie McGuire and also the Lizzie McGuire movie because hello, that's so iconic. Let's go ahead and get started with our title character. What do you think Lizzie McGuire is?
Okay. This one was like actually kind of hard for me because I had like a top three for every character and I like kind of narrowed it down to one. And for Lizzie, I actually decided with a two-wing three. I saw two just because she's like so caring towards others, but she also really cares about like her image and with that three-wing and like her social status. But she really does care about others, and she's like a very social person who always wants to be near her friends. And I just thought she was just so caring and like she's just a really fun character.
She totally is. She's probably one of the funniest Disney characters who is so relatable because I feel like the other characters that they've had, like, even Miley and Hannah Montana and Zach and Cody, they're not the most relatable in terms of, oh my gosh, I've totally done that. So
Yeah.
she's the one where you're like, oh, brother, yep, I've done the exact same thing and it's so embarrassing. Or I'm so glad they brought that up because that's what I was thinking when I was in middle school. And like she actually said it.
Yeah, that's she's such a relatable character. And her family is they make me cringe sometimes, but like they're kind of relatable sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah, they're not my favorite characters, but Lizzie is a
Yeah.
great character.
No, they really are. But okay, this is actually going to be interesting. Our first one's controversial. I actually typed Lizzie as a 9 wing 8.
Seriously, wow,
I
I'm actually
did.
honored. I was thinking you would. I was like, that was not in my top three, but I was like, you know what? I wonder if she would do that. I actually did not type any of the types 9 wing 8, and maybe that's just because it's my type, but like I just didn't see any of them as it. But I could see Lizzie like that.
I know. Well, see, the thing is, there were so many things that she did that felt very nine-ish to me. So, like, she's really the kind of person that looks at all sides of a situation and is like, well, what if they're doing this? Or maybe it's not like that. What if they're actually trying to be like blah, blah, blah? Or she'll kind of ignore red flags in order to keep the peace or to try and give someone the benefit of the doubt, which I feel like is very nine-ish, at least from nines I've interacted with and what I've learned about them. And I feel like there is a little bit to her. There was one episode that I watched specifically for this, and it was where she started to like the paper boy. And I think is it
Oh,
called
that
First
was
Kiss or whatever? Yeah, it's
yeah.
so funny. But there was something about her where she wanted to be kind of like passive, but then she was like, "Hey, you're gonna come in my house and not say hi to me?" And she like followed him outside and was like, "Wait a minute, were you eavesdropping on my phone call and stuff?" And so it felt like very aggressive, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." But
Yeah.
honestly, there's so much that she does that feels like the nine peacemaker, and she's got her close friends, and she's like, this is my group and I'm okay with it. And there's stuff about her that I think, in a sense, it's like that's what we all were doing when we were in middle school. Like we were
Yeah.
all wanting to be popular or we wanted to fit in with certain kinds of clothes or whatever. But I think she knows who she is, and I think she's calm in that. And that's what leads me to think like that's such a nine thing where you're just
Yes.
you and you're okay with it and you're like living your life and you don't feel the need to pretend to be something you're not. However, the episode where she's trying to ask Ethan to the Sadie Hawkins dance and she's
Hmm.
basically like, I can be whatever he needs to be. I can morph into whatever, reminds me of like the nine that can kind of wear all side or wear all sides, wear all the different hats, and like they can
Hmm.
mold to be whatever you need in a given situation because they use that connection to three.
Yes. Yeah, I actually wrote down on like my character analysis that she's like always avoiding conflict, and I was like I if Olivia types her as a 9, I was like that would kind of morph our two typings because I see the 9. I just hadn't originally thought of that.
Well, and I think she probably has a two in her
Yeah.
tri-type. I mean, I love tri-types. So
Oh, I know,
let's
yeah.
I feel like I'm like the tri-type queen. Okay, so if she has, I didn't actually think about her tri-type because I was just focusing on type, but I feel like her tri-type would be a 9 to 6 because I think she is
Yeah,
very
that's what I was thinking
nervous.
too, yeah.
She's
I
very
actually
six-ish.
had Seven Wing Six as one of her top threes because she's very sevenish, in like how adventurous she is, and she's just a really bubbly person. But I was like, she definitely carries that six wing very strong.
For sure. And maybe even, you know how sometimes sevens and nines get mistyped for each other, which I don't,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, wait, could you mistype those? And then I'm like, no, 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 wait, they actually are very similar, especially
Yeah.
the social nine gets mistyped as the seven, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm a social nine, and me and my mom are very similar, and she's a seven, so it happens a lot.
Well, maybe that's where we're getting it. Maybe all of this is like connecting to each other. And also
Maybe.
remember, a lot of female nines mistype as a two.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yes. So maybe this is like, maybe we're debunking this right now. Maybe we're figuring
Maybe like
out
we
that
were
like
both right somehow.
maybe like the poor nines get mistyped as twos and then they're like, I don't feel like a two, but they're also like, it's okay, I'm just gonna go with it because it's too it's too
That's so
disturbing.
sad though, but it's kind of true. Like I could see that happening.
Okay, let's chat about Miranda because I feel like that friendship is so interesting and I am very curious to see what you typed her as because we kind of had a
Okay.
conversation about like I said that she reminds me of one of your friends almost to a
Yes.
T. So I'm like, what the heck did you type her as?
So I actually want to say before I say her typing, Miranda, okay, don't get me wrong. I love my friend who we're referring her to. But Miranda, I find very different in that I'm not a huge fan of Miranda. Just
Really?
because she's always just randomly there, being really like controversial and like she's not really adding to the character arc of Lizzie, I feel like. But I do like her as some of her scenes in the movie, I mean the show, but she just like misses a lot of the fun episodes and she's not in the movie. So I feel like that kind of draws away from her. But I actually did type her as a 8 wing 7. I
There we
went for
go.
8 because I my friend is an 8 and I do see the 8 wing 7 a lot. I just think she's like really adventurous and she has that 7 side like Lizzie does. So they can go on like adventures together and she's also very bubbly. She has like a fun personality. It just she's just so strong and she's quite confident, you know. She's just really headstrong and like she knows what she wants and she knows how to get it. And that's a really cool trait about her.
That is 100% right. I actually agree with everything you just said, and I also typed her as an 8-wing 7.
Okay, yay! I was actually worried we would like have all controversial types where it'd be like we did not match on any of them, but I'm happy we matched on that one.
There we go. We'll see. We have connections to each other because 6 and 9 connect. So maybe we're just like really on the same
Oh,
wavelength.
yeah, we're debunking all these characters.
Yeah, I think she is very 8ish. And just like you said, I think for the same reason you were like, oh, I don't know. I actually loved her.
That's funny.
I was like, oh my gosh, she actually is really and I what episode did I talk about this in? Oh, I think it was the Hannah Montana episode where I was saying, eights when they're in school, they can be very off-putting to a lot of kids in their grade because the kids in their grade are very much like, I don't know who I am, I'm trying to fit in,
Mhm.
I don't want to like rock the boat. But the eight, they are so forceful and they just go for what they want. And because they're a gut type, I guess they're more comfortable with intensity, I should say.
Yeah.
And so they're not worried about the status quo. And that can be very like, whoa, 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 you're doing your own thing and I don't know
Yeah,
how
you're
to
like in my
receive it.
face. Yeah.
Right, right, right. And I thought it was fun that they highlight that because a lot of eight females actually get this label slapped on them of being a B word, when in reality, they're
Yeah.
just like super upfront and cool and just tell you how it is. And I think that's something that even like Lizzie, I think she needed that sometimes to be
Yeah.
pulled out of like this overthinking and ignoring red flags. Miranda would be like, excuse me, major red flag. You need to look at this and you need to get
Yeah.
out of like daydreaming. And so that's where I felt like it was a really good, solid friendship.
Yeah, that's actually funny because it's kind of like me and my 8 wing 7 friends relationship. As a 9, like the same type as Lizzie, I find that addressing conflict is really hard. And so this is like a super silly example, but like if my order at a restaurant was wrong, I wouldn't really want to like tell them it's wrong. And I feel like those 8s will just go in and they just don't mind. And that's something that's really cool is they don't mind addressing even the smallest conflict. They actually know how to handle it, which is great.
Yeah, and also for friends that maybe are still trying to find their footing in terms of addressing conflict, even if it's not like quote conflict, but just like you said, where they don't want to rock the boat by being like, hey, my order's wrong. The eight friend is there to push them towards that and to, I think,
Yeah.
show them that it's not as scary as you think. It's almost like the idea of doing it is way scarier than actually doing it. Okay, let's talk about Gordo because I know
I
we had
love
had like a
Gordo.
mini, I know, right? We had a mini conversation about him, and then I was like, whoa, whoa, I don't want to hear your type yet because I don't want it to sway my type. So I want to hear what you typed him as.
Okay, I love Gordo as a character. He is one of the sweetest Disney Channel guys. Like, so many of them are funny, like Zach from Zack and Cody, but they're not the best guy, if you're being honest.
True.
And Gordo is a really sweet guy, and he's so loyal. So that is why I actually typed him as a six wing five. I also leaned a lot towards five and four, actually. But I decided to go with six in the end just because of how loyal he is. Like, even when Lizzie's chasing Ethan time and again, he's always like right there just waiting for her, which is so sweet. I don't think he's a wing seven. I think he can let it out sometimes, but he's definitely wing five. He just cares about studies and he likes hanging out with people, like just his little group of friends. He's not a super social person, but he can be when the time comes.
100%. Now, okay, I thought about this. So before I tell you what I thought his type was, I'm really curious. Do you think that because his parents are therapists, if that played into his personality at all and like why he's so mature and research oriented?
I mean, speaking from someone whose mom is a therapist, I think it did because my dad is in the medical field. So that's obviously a very like mature topic. And then my mom being a life coach and therapist ever since pretty much I was born. I've really grown up in that like mature aspect. So I've always been kind of mature for my age. And I think that's how Gordo is. He's just very mature and he holds himself very well, but he knows how to have fun and just like be a kid as well. It just that's something I think really played into it. And he was able to kind of use those therapy techniques in his life.
He genuinely did. The fact that he said he would read his parents' case files on his off time.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually was, I don't know, I kept going back and forth between five and six because I felt like I was going back and forth between nine and six for Lizzie. And I was like, would we have two six friends? And then I was like, I mean, we might, but also I ended up deciding that I think Gordo's more of a five because I see
Mhm.
him being more of that niche interest person. And I think that he does want kind of that withdrawing space. I think that that's more of his vibe versus the six who just like complies. I think he's always poking the bear a little bit and he wants to elicit some sort of, I guess, thought process on the other girl's behalf.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, what about this? Have you thought about this? Maybe look a little bit deeper here, which can sound very six, but I almost think that he was more willing to stir up something than he was to just be like, okay. I think
Yeah.
after a certain amount of time, and especially if you feel like, oh no, saying this could potentially cause issues with the friendship, the six would back down a little bit more. Whereas I think the five with their, eight, I think they could be a little bit more like, no, you need to look at this because this is important. Or, oh my gosh, you've run me around the same circle 1,000 times with Ethan.
Yeah.
Seriously, shut up, calm down. He's not that interesting. And I think he really is the one who, even like Miranda does it in her own eight way, I think he's the one to kind of raise those red flags to Lizzie in
Yeah.
more of a headway. Or even when Lizzie and Miranda have issues, he's always able to bring a really interesting viewpoint to the table that makes Lizzie go, oh, it was so simple. Why wasn't I just getting out of
Yeah.
my like craziness and thinking about it like this? He's good at distilling down problems. And also, he's so loyal, but I don't think that his loyalty to the girls compromises his own standing on situations, which again, I feel
Yeah.
like is more of a five thing because the six can tend to kind of fold into what other people have going on.
Yeah, definitely. I know more sixes than I do fives, so I don't really know like many five guys. So I think that's why that's a restaurant, by the way.
Five guys.
um,
Dang, now I want a burger.
I know, dang it. But I think that's probably the reason I typed him as a six is because I haven't really like interacted with many five guys and I don't really know how they work in those like red flag situations as well. So that point was like really interesting to me because like I hadn't really heard from that perspective before. And I really do think his six is very strong, but I mean that five is just a complete personality type for him.
I think the 6 is extreme with him, like, he is literally so 6-ish, and I think he does have that little bit of, like, nervous 6 energy, I think sometimes
Yeah,
when
like, just that he
situations
gives off,
happen,
yeah.
which
He, like, curls his shoulders a little and, like, sees, and you're like, "Oh, is he worried?"
he totally does, and he does get a little he doesn't have anxiety, I would say, it's more of just I wonder if it's, like, the 5 going to 7 and getting a little bit of that
Yeah,
7 energy when he gets nervous.
like, jittery, yeah.
Mhm, exactly, exactly, but yeah, it was literally almost indistinguishable between 5 and 6 at certain
It's, like, the
points.
tiniest little difference, so, yeah, I agree with your point too.
It was really interesting just to watch him, especially because it's like he's around these girls all the time, so he's probably going, "Oy vey," like, I
Yeah.
was just stuck with these crazy girls.
I know, but
Oh,
he's so sweet and loyal, even though he's like doesn't really have many guy friends, I guess, but he's really sweet. And I love seeing him and Ethan's relationship grow because like in the beginning of the show, it's like literally enemies, but then in like the movie, they become friends, and that's really sweet.
I know, it is cute, I love that. Speaking of Ethan, let's just go ahead and
Okay.
type him. So, obviously, I feel like I get the most out of Ethan in the Lizzie McGuire movie. I feel like that's him in his, like, full glory.
That's him in his
Um,
element, yeah.
him and the spaghetti, oh my gosh. Okay,
Oh
so
my
what did you type him as?
Okay, so I had, like, probably the hardest time with Ethan actually, just because he's characterized as, like, dumb, and I didn't wanna, like, put that on any type, so I actually had my sister Hannah help me a little with this one.
Yes, get the 4 in
Um,
here.
yes, I was like, "I need the wise 4 to tell me." So I had a lot of different guesses, but I actually ended up with 7 wing 6.
That's what I typed him
Did
as!
you? Oh my
Yes, oh my
gosh, that's
gosh.
cool.
Okay, okay, why'd you choose 7?
Okay, so obviously he carries a lot of 7 traits. He's very carefree with everything he does, He's not super, like, lenient towards only studying. He really just cares about, like, having fun and going on adventures, and when he goes to Italy, he just wants to have fun. He really doesn't really care about the drama going on between him and Kate. He just doesn't care. He's just like, "Let me have my fun and let me enjoy, like, this moment that probably will not happen again," which is great. So he's a very, like, live in the moment kinda guy, and he's also super chill, which is why I said 6 instead of 8 because he's not super headstrong. He's more like go with the flow, and he can also get a little nervous towards things, but it's not really 8.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I was thinking because he really does prioritize fun. At this point in their lives too, it's not like they have a lot of responsibility, so I think
Yeah.
it does make sense for us to really focus on his priorities in what they are right now, if that makes sense. Because I don't
Yeah.
think it makes sense to be like, oh, he just wants to have fun, so he's a 7. But it's like right now, he doesn't have a whole lot going
Yeah,
on that he
he
has to
doesn't
worry
have a
about.
reason not to wanna have fun, yeah.
Right, exactly, exactly. So that's not to say all 7s are just constantly chasing fun and don't want to have any responsibility. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, no.
Not at all. I mean, your mom runs like a bazillion businesses. Hello. They love responsibility. But they
Yeah.
also want to have fun in what they're doing. And I think for him, he even on the Italy trip, like let's focus on Lizzie the movie for a second. I think he really was excited to enjoy all the sights, but he also was like, okay, yeah, it's cool to see like architecture, but where's the food? Where are the things that I want?
Yes.
He's going for that 7 enjoyment in food and activity versus sights and things like that. And so that's
Yeah.
where again I think it leans more 7. And also in that episode I mentioned before where Lizzie is trying to ask him to the dance, he was very straightforward with her and basically just said, "That's so nice of you, but I've always just kind of seen you as a friend. So I don't think it's really good for us to go together, but I think
Yeah.
you're awesome."
He
And
has
that's
that hidden wisdom, the 6th wisdom that comes out where you're like, "Whoa."
yeah, where'd you come from?
Yeah.
No, but 7, 3, and 8, you've heard me mention this before if you listen to the podcast, they're in the aggressive stance. And so even though the 7 isn't necessarily aggressive, like you would automatically think of when you think of like an 8 or something like that, they have a very straightforward approach, but it sounds really sweet when they do it because they are very, very caring and they
Yeah.
don't want to say something that's just kind of blunt just to move past it, but they want to say it, get it out there on the table, and then they're like, okay, let's refocus here. Because
Yeah.
remember, the 7's always trying to focus on the positive. And so I think that's what he did. Like he said it in a very matter-of-fact way, but you did not sense any kind of pretentious, rude, snotty attitude. It was very much like, oh, this is just the deal, and I wouldn't want to do that to you, so let's not. And
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. And really spoke to his true character because again, like we said, he kind of is characterized as this doofy, doesn't want to apply
Yeah.
himself
He's
ever.
like the dumb blonde, but
He
like,
really
yeah.
is. Yeah, but he's really sweet and I think he does genuinely care for people. It's just not going to look like what everyone would normally characterize a caring person as, but that's
Yeah.
fine.
I was actually very close with 3 for him just because he's characterized as a kind of jock and, like, social status achiever just because he's popular, but I don't think he really is. I think that's just, like, the role he's been put into, and really he's just more of, like, a carefree 7 who's just living life.
Yes, well, and sevens always end up being popular because they're so fun and they just don't care about like this the status quo and being something, you know? They're
Yeah.
just there doing them and I think people are kind of honestly they want to be around that because that's what they want.
Mhm, definitely.
So they
Yeah.
end up being popular just by default.
Lucky.
I know, right? Let's talk about Kate because
Okay.
obviously Kate and Ethan and Kate and Lizzie and all that. I feel like there's just this weird like what is that? It's
Love
like
triangle. Kate's like a stereotypical mean girl for the 2000s, you know? They kinda characterize
from
her
the
to just
2000s.
yeah, to just want, like, clothing and, like, hair stuff, you know? Like,
Mhm.
they make her, like, this really girly girl meanie who just only cares about being popular and getting Ethan Kraft, who's the most popular.
Who
Um
doesn't want Ethan? Have you seen his hair? It's like
That's
a
literally my
luscious field of
sister.
gold.
I mean, I could see a little, but, like, no, my sister, like,
No.
loves him, though.
Oh my
Uh,
god. Wait, because he's cute or does she like his attitude?
she's, like, funny, but, like, she thinks he's cute.
Oh, okay. He's cute. He's I wouldn't be around him for his personality.
She thinks his character is funny, not his personality.
Okay,
When he was
okay.
like, "Lizzie, Lizzie, Lizzie," that's, like,
Lizzie,
her
Lizzie,
favorite
Lizzie.
part.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
I
that
love
needs to be
that
a
part.
ringtone stat.
Yes. Okay, so Kate was also really hard for me because she obviously gives off a lot of, like, 8 traits of how aggressive she is, and I also see some 2 traits. But I actually did type her as a 2, I mean, a 3-wing 2, just because she's really trying to get to the top of the social status, and she really does care about her outward image, which isn't always a bad thing, you know? You have to have self-worth and everything, so she really does care about that, and she cares about, like, what other people think of her a lot, so even Lizzie, she cares that she knows that she's the boss.
Absolutely, 100% agree because I typed her as the same thing.
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my
we're just
gosh,
in
virtual
sync right
high
now.
five. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting because I rewatched Lizzie the movie, which again, such an iconic film. But the really interesting thing, because we could just focus on the fact that she's kind of the villain character and like, I don't want to do that to our threes who are listening because she does have her downfalls. However, she is such a good friend to Lizzie when she realizes that like she has this whole double identity thing going on in
Yeah.
Italy and because people don't really realize that threes are very loyal and they will definitely go out on the limb for people and if they feel like there's a worthwhile reason or if you're in their inner circle, they'll do that for you. And so we see that she's like, I'll cover for Ungermeyer. Oh my god, I freaking love Ungermeyer so much. But
She is so good.
she is money, but she's like, I'll cover for you. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll come up with a story. And she's very much the person who, if you are in her inner circle, she'll do anything for you. But there has to be like a good foundation there. Her little cheerleader friends, she won't do that for
Yeah.
you because she kind of just sees you as part of her climb on the social ladder, you
Yeah.
know? But if you're really in her life and she does care about you, she will do anything for you. And again, that's that three using their six of the loyalist. And in and of
Yeah,
themselves, they're very loyal.
definitely.
6, 3, 9, all very loyal types. But I think Kate, she does have that kind of she's the Sharpay Evans of Lizzie McGuire, you
Yes.
know?
Yes,
Um
definitely.
but she does have a really good heart underneath, and I think she's just caught
Mhm.
up in the status quo, social status situation of school life. But again, that's more situational. I don't think that's necessarily her in her entirety.
Definitely. Yeah, I think her loyalism is just so strong in the film, and like you said, in that scene where she finds out she has, like, the double identity thing, she, like, really lets her heart show, and she just really cares about it's not about popularity anymore, it's just about, like, their history together and where she wants this friendship to go, so that's really sweet to see where their friendship does go towards the end of the movie.
For sure. And I think we were all just like waiting for that moment of the
Yes,
reconciliation.
the deep breath where it's like the tension is gone. That was great, yeah.
I know, right? Okay, since you mentioned Ungermeyer, let's talk about my favorite and our last character.
No, she is my favorite character, definitely too. She's
I
the
love
main
that.
character. I love her so much.
100%. Yeah, she's like the main character of our lives. Okay, so what did you type her as? Because I feel like there's only one type for her, but I'm like,
Yeah.
what if we have a very crazy standoff at the end of this episode?
That'd be really funny. Okay, so this one kinda just came to me. I didn't really have to think about it at all, but I don't know if you have a different one. I said 8 wing 9. So
There we go. There we go. Yep, 8
there
wing
we
9.
go. She's not really like 7-ish. She's not super like I keep saying this word, but I feel like bubbly is a good word to define a 7. Like she's not super bubbly. I feel like she's leaning towards comfort and in the end she wants peace for the whole trip. She wants it to be smooth sailing, but she just has that straight 8 energy that you just cannot match. She's ready for a fight and I just love it so much. She's hilarious. And her and Hollow's bodyguard
Yes, I was
are
just
the
about to say
cutest
Sergey.
couple. Yes, Sergey. Oh my gosh, they're
Oh my
so
god.
cute.
I love the scene where Sergey is trying to block her in the elevator and he's
Yes.
like, the elevator's not safe. And she's like, oh, you work here? And she's like, you can back up. And she's like just touching him. What did she call him? A full hunk of Slavic muscle or
Oh
something.
my
And
gosh,
I
her
was like,
voice is so good too.
oh, it is 100%. I swear. Ungermeyer's the best. I think her best line of the entire movie is when she's at the airport, they're about to board to go to Italy. She puts a little headset on. She's like, "Attention, parents, shut your pie holes."
Oh,
That
yeah.
is probably one of the
I love
all-time
it.
best lines
I say
ever.
that term like way too much, and I think it's from that movie. I mean, that's kinda sad, but I've seen it so many times. Also, did you know she is actually in Gilmore Girls?
Yes, and Marvelous Miss Maisel because she's friends with Amy Sherman Palladino. Boom.
That's so cool. Her
True.
voice stays the same though, and that's my favorite part is it's like one of her personality trait. Every time I see her, she has the same personality. She's like, "Move it or lose it. I'm here. You're welcome. I graced you with my presence. Now let's get this going." She's just my favorite.
I just like if you've listened to the podcast, you know I freaking love eights, but there's something about her in particular. I was literally almost crying laughing just rewatching this when they're coming back into the hotel. It is actually right before the scene with her and Sergey in the elevator, but the kids are all walking in. She's carrying the American flag and she's like doing this intense mall walk, and then she goes ha ha and like buzzes
Oh
in front of the
yeah, she
kids.
runs.
Like, what are
That's
you,
such a
10?
good part.
It's so good. I
After she's
literally love
calling
it.
them immature, I love it. And when she
Oh,
goes, she's like, "Gelato has twice the calories of normal ice cream, so you wanna get 2 scoops." I'm like, "Okay, that's her 7 side coming out, definitely."
for sure. She's like the gluttony's here and I love it. No, but I think that's actually a really interesting point because do you know that a lot of eights I talk to, they're very much the same way. They're very similar to a seven when it comes to gluttony and like food because they're the kind of people that they've said if they have like one brownie, they have to have five brownies. Like you can't just have one. Like
Oh.
they're the kind of people that do want more, more, more. And maybe that's their passion of lust, you know, and that remember,
Yeah.
that's not a
Not a
wink, wink,
stereotype,
nudge,
it's just
nudge.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not that. It's like a lust for life, or maybe even a better word is like a zest. Okay, they're
Yes.
zesty. They have a zest for life, a zest for more. But yeah, I mean, they do want more, and I think her version of that is actually in like a verbal sparring. And remember,
Yeah.
those eights, they love to verbally spar, and that's actually how they build connection and trust with people. And so that's where you'll see that from a lot of those eights I've mentioned in other episodes. And I think there's something to that where they feel like doing that allows for a wall to be broken down and for you to kind of build
Yeah.
this deeper connection. And
Yeah, like a one-to-one kind of thing, yeah.
for
You have to
sure.
establish dominance with an 8 also. You have to, like, show them you're there and, like, show up, especially as a 9. Whenever I'm with an 8, I have to remember you have to be overly confident here, and, like, I don't know if this is true, but, like, for me, I'm allowed to be, like, a little bit cocky. Like, I'm allowed to be confident in everything around an 8 because 'cause they're looking for that. They're looking for you to be overly confident so that they can kinda spar with you, like you said.
Okay, so that's actually really interesting. As a nine, what are some tips you have for other nines? Because as I've mentioned in other episodes, oh golly, I was talking to somebody about the Top Gun Maverick movie and I was like, yeah, and I typed Bob and they're like, oh, I forgot about him. And I'm like, these freaking nines, these poor people, they just are
So
always like, oh, I
sad.
forgot about them. Or like, oh, and they just like fade away in conversation because they're so sweet and they're peaceful. I hate to say the word energy, but you know what I mean? They can just kind of be so serene that you just are like, oh, they're just doing their thing and you forget to draw them into conversation. So, what are some tips you have for other nines out there who maybe find themselves in that same situation?
I'd say just even if it feels uncomfortable or it feels like you're being I don't know if this is weird, but if it feels like you're being too 8-ish or like you're too much in your 3, you're probably not. It's okay to just be confident and to be able to talk to someone in a conversation without stuttering or feeling like you're doing something wrong for wanting to say a point. You're allowed to have an opinion and to just have fun in the conversation. Just like let loose and don't be worried about not being heard or being heard too much. Just allow the conversation to flow. And if you're not being heard, make sure you're stepping in and like saying, "Hey, I have a voice here." I do that a lot in my family where my mom is very sensitive to me not being heard because she knows it's a trait of a 9. So if like I'm not heard, I'm like, "Hey, I wasn't heard here. I was trying to say something." And she'll be like, "Okay, let's listen to Melody. She needs to say something." It's not like I'm shoving myself in. It's just I had a point and I was talking.
Okay, so it's like people talking over you and you having to be like, "Oh, hey, by the way, I had something to say. Let me just like say my piece." And
Yeah. And then
everybody
they're
shut
like,
up.
okay, they're not like, "Oh, she's such a jerk for saying that." They're like, "Oh, that's understandable." And my family's very good about that.
Well, and you guys also like do your work and you're very cognizant of that, which I think a lot of people, it's easy to forget when you're in situations because even with my connection to Nine, I can find myself in that same situation where I just sort of am like, oh, well, they didn't get to me. It's okay. I'll just like let it go. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say, even if you feel like you're being too 8 or too 3, you probably aren't. And I think that's all of us in that like triad. If you're a 6, a 3, or a 9, I think sometimes you can feel like you don't want to be too much X, Y, and Z. And yet,
Yeah.
usually it's just you in your head and you're not actually being that way, or I should say, you're not being perceived that way. And
Yeah.
so get out of that, maybe get out of your head so much and just focus on, I need to do what I need to do.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably one of the things I do the most, especially in conversations with an 8, just because they love to dominate the conversation, which isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes you just want them to take over the conversation.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're like, hey, I'm really passionate about this and I want to have a point and I want to say what it is. And that's really important to just step up and say what you're thinking and be able to have that confidence.
For sure. And I hope all the nines out there are encouraged and you can follow Melody. You want to give them your Instagram handle?
Sure. My Instagram handle is at It's Melody Jane. And I'm also a part of the Rewired podcast, and that is the handle. And that's just a really fun podcast that I have with my friends. That's all about just faith and friends and community and just exploring life. It's also a really good one for like mentoring younger people just to help them find their way and everything. So that's a really fun one if you want to check it out. And we have new episodes every other week on Fridays.
Yes, you guys have to check out their podcast. It's so good. These girls are so cool. And
Uh,
what's the best word? You guys are really passionate about something, and now you're putting your passion into action. And that's something that I talk about all the time. So many people are like, I'm really passionate about such and such, but they're not going to do anything to actually follow through with it. And so,
yeah.
people that actually go forward and are bold in pursuing what they're passionate about, I think is so cool. And we always want to highlight that here on the podcast. So, check it out, the Rewired podcast. And be sure and check back on Friday for a brand new episode. We have a really fun career series episode coming soon. And we also are finishing up the summer throwback series very, very soon. And be sure and check on Instagram at Hey, it's Liv James because I found some really cool behind the scenes Lizzie McGuire photos for you that you're definitely not going to want to
Ooh.
miss. I know. We'll be going back and forth in
I'll
the
be
comments on
looking.
that. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time. And thanks so much for coming on, Melody.
Yes, thank you for having me on. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, me too. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.
Okay. Bye.